News First Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali.
Hello, good morning and welcome to Newsline, live as always from the Newsfirst studios in Dawson Street in Colombo. And amongst a sea of sort of confusion and political uncertainty, so what's new you say, but to discuss these matters and a little bit more and to analyse them a bit is Mr. Dinesh Gunawardena, Member of Parliament and a vociferous figure at that. Very good morning to you, Mr. Gunawardena. Thank you for being on Newsline.
Good morning, Mr. Bharat.
Are you feeling all right now? You've had a little fall
Yes,
and so on.
Completely back to normal.
Ah, good. We'll have you on the morning show then a few days time.
Yeah, maybe.
Right. It's all because of this megapolis, isn't it? What about this new road? Don't you have a road to zoom in? A new highway?
There's a lot of new roads. I don't know when it's going to operate.
Right.
So many announcements every day.
Indeed, indeed. I'll touch on the road subject. I've got a little piece of paper to share with you. But tell me, are you satisfied that the local government elections?
Local government, Faraz, as I mentioned before, also a couple of times when I came for a program, local government elections have been due for more than 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
That's one issue. And the reasons given was that the delimitation was not done in a proper manner. The delimitation was over-gazetted, local government elections not called for.
Mm-hmm.
Suddenly, the commissioner sends in a bill for his technical issues.
Right.
Time of starting the poll, ending the poll, count, appointing officers, etc.
Right.
Which we agreed to pass. The government was not much interested. Then they introduced the bill, fixed the date for the debate. Then they introduced 50 amendments to the bill.
50,
50, totally taking, the entire framework of the bill out.
Mm.
Now, this had never happened before. So, but we won the elections in whatever way, we won the elections. What the government did, the key features are really alarming.
Mm-hmm.
Not come, I guess, for Yahapalan administration, pro-democracy, all been taken for a ride, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Defranchise the youth who were given a youth quota in contesting, that was taken out. Increase the number from 30 to 40% on PR and reduce the number on first past the post, the ward system. That was not the intention of the bill earlier. Then, the contesting rights enjoyed by so many public servants and others like Samurdi, extension officers, etc., etc. They have been contesting local authorities. Totally withdrawn. How can the government say that they are, giving franchise its due place when they are withdrawing all these benefits that people have been enjoying?
So that's like a problem.
It's a problem, and they have evaded Supreme Court by introducing it in Parliament, the 50 amendments, and with retrospective legislation, which is not...
It sounds unfair anyway.
Unfair, not welcome in the Constitution. They have smuggled it in.
Why do you think they've done this? Is it to benefit them? How does it benefit them?
Yeah, it might benefit them in the short term, or it might benefit some of their partners. This is how they made the Manapa, the preference and PR election also, thinking it benefits. When they lost only, they realized that it can't serve them forever.
Right, okay.
Similarly, when they realize how the people are going to vote, then they might again say, they're not the best electoral system. But we must hold the local government elections to 330 local government authorities in the country. This is the position of the JO, That's why we couldn't support this draconian peace, but we did not vote against. But we explained to the government in Parliament, but they bulldozed through, and now we wait for the Honourable Speaker to sign up the so-called amended bill and the Commission to declare the election date. Let's see.
Let's see. Let's see.
Let's see.
Should people think and think again and again before they cast their vote?
I think the people have made their final thinking. They know this is a collapsing government. The government can't keep to its promises. Government can't come up with anything new for the benefit of the country. So they are on the way.
They can't come up with anything new for the country. Does that mean they are incapable because of a lack of knowledge? Or is it more a commitment issue?
It's a commitment issue, and I don't think they have enough people with knowledge. Highly educated people in the back benches who have not been promoted. The front benches are leaving one by one, or they have been forced to leave because of the mistakes they are making. And so the government cannot come up with any new program for the benefit of the masses. How can you say what was given to the youth have to be abolished now? They one feature in the election law what they did. The allocation for youth was abolished. How will a government of the day be able to face the youth? Will a government of the day be able to face about 600 to 800 people who enjoy?
Is there no provision to delete that aspect when it's debated in Parliament?
When it was presented, it was there. Then they rushed through their 50 amendments.
Right.
And, left, right, and centre, they were cutting and deleting various sections which was already in the bill. What I say, the most undemocratic move they made was it retrospective for 1 year. Now they pass a bill today, and they say for 1 year, if you had been serving, you can't contest. Then they should have brought it last year. This type of retrospective legislation is unwelcome in our constitution. There are very specific clauses which says no retrospective legislation.
Does it speak at all of any sort of a breach of this rule or not?
It is a breach had it been brought and given the citizens their right under the Constitution to petition to Supreme Court. Definitely Supreme Court would have given the observation.
Right.
The government had deprived the citizens of their right, as well as the Supreme Court of their authority of making an interpretation.
We need to ask you, we need to move on a little bit more now. I want to ask you the answer to a question that has been troubling me and a number of our viewers too, because I have had several different emails and text messages about this. And it is this. It's to do with resignations. Now, can we examine them one at a time, please? We had Tilak Marapana, who resigned back in the old days of 2015. Right? Now then, he's back. How does one explain that? Do we explain it and say, look, Tilak Marapana resigned, he's been out there for a suitable period, as suitable is not defined, and therefore he is now back? What do we do?
The ethics of Parliament was a whole lot of a report tabled by the Speaker. I don't know where it stands in relation to this matter, but Mr. Tilak Marapana resigned on his own because he said, if people say I have a conflict of interest, I go. But the matter is not over.
It's not over. But our first segment is over, so we're going to take a short break. Don't go away. After all, this is Newsline.
News First, Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali. News First, Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali.
And welcome back to Newsline. Now then, Mr. Dinesh Gunawardene is our guest, and we are asking him several questions today. Now then, you were trying to explain about this gestation period. So you have Mr. Marapana who resigned on whatever he wanted to resign on, and that company doesn't seem to be the prosecution, if any, doesn't seem to be going anywhere. And so, is it wrong to bring back Mr. Marapana to a senior position in government and give him a ministerial role as well? Is that good thinking?
Of course, could be taken from two sides, Faraz. One is the person who appoints. One who is the person who accepts. Now, the minister himself resigned and went. He was not asked to resign by anyone.
Mm-hmm.
Now the minister comes back. Is the matter over? No. Why is the Honorable Mr. Marapana accepting office? So these are matters that have been discussed, political ethics, whether it's correct, whether other ministers also would follow the same, etc. So I think if the matter is not over, those who have raised the issue in Parliament should have been answered first. That the matter is over, therefore we accept office. Nothing of the sort. This is how the Yahapalane works. Yahapalane has its own way of making selections.
Okay. But in the Rajapaksa administration, we hear what you said just now. But in the Rajapaksa administration, we had people who didn't even get their knuckles rapped, or didn't get a caning. Okay, please go on. None of that.
Only caning I remember, Faraz, was my good friend, classmate Anura Bandaranaike, who were removed from his portfolio.
Right.
And after a week, Mahinda Rajapaksa recalled him and reappointed him. So this is how things happen. What Anura Bandaranaike was removed for no reason. And President realized I should call him back, and he accepted and continued. So these things have happened. But in the case of Mr. Marapana resigning after a parliamentary debate, is a much more serious matter. Not that he was involved, whether his advice given to Party A or Party B falls as a matter of conflict of interest.
So, all right. So even what you're saying is that Mr. Marapana also should have been kept out.
Yeah, I think he should have not accepted, even because the crisis was so severe that the UNP had to find someone acceptable. This is why they went to Mr. Marapana. Otherwise, they wouldn't have gone to Mr. Marapana.
Okay, all right. Then what about the troubles with Mr. Ravi Karunanaike? He's if you look at it, he's at least got a problem in terms of explaining away the purchase of the flat, the apartment. I mean, can we examine it slightly differently? Can we say that Mr. Karunanaike is a successful businessman who has demonstrably wealthy man. Wealth, he could demonstrate his wealth. Then, what on earth was he doing having 165 million rupees in a bank account in the name of petrol?
Forget what he was doing, I mean, for a moment. What was the government and the legal officers doing? I mean, they chased behind 2-3 pots of kasipu.
Goodness me.
Yeah, but this is a major thing. What have they done? Have they taken any step? No, nothing.
But
So the
now
minister has faced a serious problem. Parliament moved a no confidence resolution. Before it came up in Parliament, or before it appeared in the Hansard order paper, minister resigns. And the speaker says, I don't have to get it into the order book because he has gone. No one knows what the no confidence motion read. What was the substance? No one knows.
No one knows. That's very worrying, isn't it?
So
Does it worry you?
this how things are being handled, you know. But still, the issue of Honorable Karunayaka going before the commission, giving evidence on this matter, is still a big question mark.
But a necessary and honourable outcome. But, and that's the but, does it really make a difference to them?
It makes a difference to the country and the government. Because as I mentioned last time, I want to mention it again, New York Times had a news item saying Sri Lanka Minister of Foreign Affairs resigns on corruption charges. And these are serious allegations on the Sri Lankan government.
Yeah.
That's a message that has gone, you know, about Sri Lanka, Sri Lanka's government, and any investor who's coming to Sri Lanka. That is not an easy thing for the government to cover up by just way of resigning. Where Ravi Karnayaka is still the deputy leader of the UNP.
Yeah.
And he is also assigned with so much of work, according to what we hear, that his party apparatus is being virtually advised by him. So what has happened? Big question mark still remains.
Right. So there is no preset ethical book or something where or a guideline, the ethical guideline to behavior in Parliament. If you resign, you can come back after 6 months, 3 days and 1 hour. Or
even earlier.
Or earlier. So there is, so what's the point? The people, no wonder the people are getting blasé about all these resignations.
Yeah, obviously the thing is the President and the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister, if he says, I have advised him to resign, can he tell the country again, I've asked him to come back? Without explaining. This, I think, the Prime Minister's responsibility. Because he recommends to the President. He says, my right, not your right. I recommend to you to appoint so and so. If you do not remove so and so, I have recommended you to remove him. You have to remove. So it seems to be very clearly the responsibility of the Prime Minister. Appointing and removal of ministers, which they say the President has to just follow. So the explanation has to come in selection of portfolios and members who are to be assigned to become ministers. The thing falls on the Prime Minister.
Is it so difficult to maintain a modicum of decency?
Not difficult at all.
Not difficult.
But in this type of government.
I need to put you on the spot here because this is for the historical record.
Yes.
I mean, you know, don't take it wrong, but I do want to ask you this question because people say to me, well, why don't you ask them? So I'm going to do what the people want, okay? I'm going to ask you this. Mr. Gunodna, parliamentarian for how long?
83.
Since 83. So that's 17 plus 17 is about 34 years.
Yeah, short period I was out.
But with a long historical background, your family has been involved in politics and so on. Have you made any money outside of your activities as a parliamentarian?
No. I have not made, I have not got involved in business to make money. I could have gone into business, half part-time business like some of the other politicians today. You know, this is what has happened to our country. Politicians are part-time businessmen. They are not committed to the cause, or they can't keep to the principle that they have announced to the country.
And you're married, you have children and so on, and they're grown children. So you've managed to do all that, because it costs money. You managed to do all that without going down the route of, shall we call it extracurricular activities where you get
deals.
paid. Yes, deals. You haven't done any deals?
No, they have gone through schooling, public schools, and then I got through.
Yeah.
Very clearly, I have, of course, over the years, I have given up a lot of my private property.
Right.
That is a part of Borlugada politics of Sri Lanka.
Yeah.
With not only Borlugada, I would say even the Senanayakas gave up a lot of Bandaranayakas gave up property. They set an example. But today, politics has turned to be a different game. One, I mentioned, the PR system of election.
Yeah.
Anyone standing, you need millions to stand up for an election. If you are not known, or if you don't stand for any policy or principle, then you have to spend for the voters. How do you recover for the next election? So this whole setup goes on. This is the danger that we are in, the vicious circle Sri Lanka is in.
It is a vicious
It is. I was listening to Harsha De Silva, the minister who knows his subject of economics.
Yeah.
He was saying, I'm fed up. I made money, stopped that and came to politics to serve the country. Now I only hear people accusing each other. What a state of affairs. This is what I heard him. This is the type of politics that we are coming into. This is not Yahapalaniya or democracy that late Venerable Sobitha preached and promised to the country.
So the late Sobitha will definitely have been an unhappy person.
Definitely.
Had he been alive to witness all this.
He was unhappy even before he passed away, because he knew how these people were going, that it's going to be a poor result that is going to be delivered. And that is where we are in today. Our country is virtually at a state of anarchy. I'm sorry to say, we are in a state of anarchy. Everything is collapsing. Even the businessmen are not sure of tomorrow.
To the interesting small story, I took a short break and I met a pool attendant, and talking to him in the morning, and I asked him about politics and so on. And he said, and this is what he said, it's an English program, so I'll say it in English. He said, boss, he said, the people who travel in Benz cars, these business people and so on, who travel in Benz cars, they can't really speak out because they don't know from which corner the government is going to hit them. But we, the common people, can say it the way it is. See, so then he gave me a whole great litany of wrongs and promises, and he was really angry, this chap, because he said the war finished and now we thought the prices will come down, No, he says nothing. He says even this age-old thing about, you know, pole sambal and rice. He said that's now like a luxury because you can't get it.
Can't get pull.
The three-wheeler chap from up the road from where we live, he says that he's skipped one meal. So he doesn't have breakfast, nor does he have lunch, but he has something in the middle called brunch.
Yeah, you're correct, because even the latest Oxfam report says inequality, poverty is growing in our country. You know, this is the danger. Should we enjoy the super luxury Benz cars in this state of affairs? Can't a politician move from point A to point B without driving in a Benz? Who decides? It has to be from the top, the decision has to come. I sacrifice for the sake of the country. This is what it should be.
But we had a minister who resigned, and he said he did it for the country, for democracy, for the party.
He resigned after a no confidence motion, surely. He did not resign on his own. And there was a no confidence. We have the second man facing the no confidence.
What will happen there?
Yeah, then already the government is saying we will not allow them in no confidence. What a democracy. What is Parliament going to come to?
So when you go to bed, I mean, you've been in the business for 34 years. Your children are all grown. When you go to bed, are you going to bed with a certain sense of tiredness? Are you sitting there and thinking, oh, I'm tired of this democracy?
Well, I think the whole country is tired, and I share with them every moment. Yeah, the expectation, irrespective of who rules which party for us, that's a different issue. You are elected to govern. You have to deliver the principles that you are committed to. You can't be giving excuses and allowing day-to-day de facto collapse. Today, what is happening? They are trying to prevent the provincial council elections. What is this principle of democracy that people are talking? To prevent an election taking place. I remember as a young member in 82, 83, end of 82, President Jayabhadran decided to have a referendum. The whole country thereafter went into chaos.
We must always end, because the public will look at, will hear us and will say, where's the silver lining? Because the public I think they fear bad news. So they'll always want to look for some good news. In that context, very quickly, where do you think our fellow citizens will find that sort of elusive silver lining in this very cloudy, murky democracy that we live in?
We have to anyhow get the people their right back to vote at the local government and provincial councils, and then we will see the result. Then the government will realize how the people are giving them a new message. But by suppressing, they think they are happy, and when everything is happy, it's not going to be so. It's going to be chaos that is growing today. It's chaos.
Dinesh Gunawardena, thank you very much for being on Newsline. Really appreciate your time and your effort. And that's it for Newsline. Take care. God bless.